Remember only 10 months ago you had just one camera?
Yeah, I know.
Things have changed. Are we live now?
We're live.
Don't call me Mark Watson again, okay? We've done it far too many times. Sorry for the intro.
Good morning. I'm with Mark Cameron here,
Thank
the
you.
CEO of Bowls New Zealand, doing our 6-weekly update and addressing questions and that from players and supporters all around the country. And I think it's great, Mark, that we're getting people to put the questions in, isn't it? It's positive that people are interacting. And don't forget, you can look at this live on Facebook. You can go back later on, of course, and look at it, and you can share it with your mates or whatever you want to do. And we hope now that we will answer all of the number of questions which we have come in. Now, the first one I'm going to mark is, what was the outcome of the Champion and Champions survey? Do we plan to release this information to the public? And if Champions come back, is it club championships for this event? Our centre has always used our open events, not club championships. So where are we at?
I'm going to have to steal that off you.
Yeah.
You've got two questions in there.
Yeah.
What was the outcome of the Champ of Champions survey? So we've got 1,200 responses.
Great.
Which blew us away.
Yeah, it's a fantastic.
We'd expect a couple of hundred, which is the norm.
Fantastic response.
1,200 responses, 93% in favour of a Champ of Champions. Return to Champion of Champions with the details that we promoted. The only issue we've got is we need to work through the dates, when that might be. So probably in the next 2 to 3 weeks we'll look to present something, announce something. The second part of the question was, are we limiting Champ of Champions just to club-based events, so Club Champ of Champions to Centre Champ of Champions, or would we allow an open Centre Championship winner to go on to the Champ of Champions? We haven't really discussed that. Ideally for us it's Club Champ of Champions moving through to Centre Champ of Champions, then to the New Zealand title. But if a centre was to come to us, I'm sure that's a conversation that we might well have.
Yeah, and I'm also sure, Mark, we've got a number of smaller centres out there where the practicality of some of these things might be, and it can be worked through, isn't it? It's not
it's like our Bowls 3-5 Interclub. The reality is that we've had to be flexible. We have some centres with only 5 or 6 clubs. So we couldn't impose the rules that we would impose on some of the bigger centres. So we do need to show some flexibility here. I was reminded in an email a couple of weeks ago where, we want to get more people playing our sport. We shouldn't be turning people away from playing
No,
our sport.
I agree. And you using the word flexibility, it's pleasing to hear that, because, and in my viewpoint, I say to all centres and all clubs, if you want to enhance your participation and numbers of playing and using the club facilities, flexibility is paramount. Like all sports are doing that now, aren't they?
Yeah, you still have to protect the rules and
Absolutely
the regulations.
you do,
You don't want to be silly about it, but at the same time, understand that ours is a social sport. It's a participation sport. When you get to the more elite competitions, sure, the rules are going to get tighter and stronger. But at the lower levels, let's be a bit more flexible.
Well, we're on flexibility and rules, right?
Yes.
There's a question being posed here about uniforms, and where a centre has adopted composite teams in open events, which they do now, and can team members from different clubs playing together play in their own club colours?
I'm starting to have to look at your questions now. No. So if the event says that you must play in the colours of your club, or in the same colours, then that is the rule. It's up to the organisers to determine what those rules are, but by and large, almost the default rule is that you play in the colours of your club. If you've got a couple of clubs who are forming a composite side, then they're going to have to choose which colour they're playing in.
I think in that regard as well, like let's say we take a rugby team or a soccer team, and they might have, and in rugby now there is composite teams that make up clubs, but they do play in a consistent uniform, and I think that's really what the rules are really saying, aren't they? It's about consistency of them, and it's up to the governing body to exercise how they.
Yeah, we want to present our sport as best we can. So, having teams playing in the same colours is a way of presenting our sport well.
Certainly is. So now that one of the always questions that comes up so often now about drugs in sport. And what action would Bowls New Zealand recommend for anyone take that may be taking medication that contains a banned drug, even though they are playing at club or centre level?
Well, look, this is a really good question, and potentially a really tough question to answer.
Yes, it is.
The reality is, as we know, within our bowls community especially, we have a number of people playing competitively in bowls who are on medication.
Yep.
For a wide range of things, and I would suggest that we're probably one of the most heavily medicated sports in the country.
More than likely, you're right.
Look, the answer, and whilst I said it was a tough question, the answer to this question is that that person or those, if you've got any concerns, head into the Drug Free Sport New Zealand website, ask one of those people your questions. They are the party that's most equipped to answer it. I would be neglectful in my role if I started to make decisions on what, or look to offer too much advice in this space. Go to Drug Free Sport New Zealand. On their website page, there'll be information for who you can contact if you've got any specific questions about yourself, about the medication that you're on, about an event that you're about to take part in.
Because it's also fair to say, isn't it, that let's say at a New Zealand level, the players fill in and do the drug protocol which they have to do under the the Commonwealth and Olympic requirements, etc. And then of course there's always the random testing which they do, and then of course there's the after event testing which also gets done. So our sport is no different to any other sport insofar as it still comes under the regime of, it's got a drug regime, hasn't it?
Yeah, it does, and we've signed up to that. We're a party to that, which means that all those playing bowls are a party to that as well.
But the New Zealand, the website gives ample information, doesn't it?
Yeah, and the best way of managing those sort of websites too, because they're full of data, is just to find that contact us page, and get in touch and ask your question directly.
Right, now onto facilities. There seems to be a larger number of events happening in covered facilities. Will this be the demise of grass bowling greens?
No, is the answer to that question. I think what we are starting to see though is that those artificial greens that are within our communities, within our clubs, there are a number now that are looking to cover those artificial greens to get year-round use out of the facility, and I think that's fantastic. It's a bit like cricket, isn't it? There's a spot for the natural turf, and then there's a place for the artificial turf. And in our case, we have the luxury. We are seeing those artificial turfs being covered more and more so. We at last count there was around about 14 or 15 covered facility projects that are either in the feasibility stage or actually in the implementation stage around this country. That's fantastic for our sport.
It is. Like we take the Bowls 3-5, which we've got on TV right now, as is the BPL event. You have to play it in that environment because you're on TV, and you're at night time, and you can't be subject to weather conditions as well. When you've got a TV live event, you can't all of a sudden say, well, I know it happens in the crib, and from a commentary point of view, it's very difficult to fill in 3 or 4 hours of highlights of 1970s, etc. So the advent of the indoor facilities enhance that of one being televised, don't they?
Yeah, they do. Absolutely. They're a must for our sport in terms of television exposure. We couldn't, and Sky Sport couldn't take that risk of televising an outdoor green, and as you said, having it rain on a Tuesday and a Wednesday night, 2 days in a row. And trust me, that does happen in New Zealand in November.
Absolutely it does. And also now so I think it's also a consideration with we'll call them the artificial surfaces, where clubs want to cover them because they are outlaying a lot of capital to actually put the artificial surface down, and they want to maximise the amount of participation hours which is available, and that's purely a financial and sensible financial move to do that, isn't it?
Yep. And the costs have come down. So to lay an artificial around about $200,000. If you were to do a Newlyn, what they're doing up at Orewa at the moment, probably another $800,000 on that. So $1 million to do a full, from a natural to a covered artificial. Now, 3 years ago, that was probably $2.5, $3 million.
Absolutely.
So the costs are coming down because of that canopy structure that we're seeing at the likes of Newlyn and now Orewa. it's still $1 million. It's a heck of a lot of money.
It is a lot of money,
but it's
yeah.
a lot more manageable for clubs.
But it's also there for a lifetime, really, isn't it? It's not.
Oh, it is.
You know, that's the other thing. And the other thing we've got to consider as well with clubs, and it is a very, very important point to club, is that, you know, the art of greenkeeping it is an art, and we're getting less and less like greenkeepers. We want to be able to play all year round now, which wasn't always the thing. So you've got to have surfaces that allow to do that. So it's just a natural move for the sport, isn't it? But as you rightly say, there is room for both, isn't there?
Oh, I mean, we want people outdoors in the summer too.
Absolutely.
Jeez, we don't want them under a canopy all summer.
So if we take the Somerset Nationals, for example, which is in Auckland in early January, you know, the headquarters of that being Carlton, going to be played in a pristine park-like environment on natural surface greens. The Burnside Piers, natural surface greens. So there's a number of the events, the major events, who are still Stoke Piers coming up, all on natural surface. So yeah,
Exactly right.
Change of the game. There's a lengthy one here, but there's two parts to this. Bowls has changed its profile markedly from being an old man's game to being a game for all ages, and particularly very young players, some of them who are succeeding at a very high level. What do you put this down to, and what has Bowls New Zealand done that you think has contributed to this being the case? That's the first part of it.
Geez, it sounds like a question I wrote for myself, doesn't it? Yeah, it is changing. I mean, it's changing from an aged demographic to a game you can play for all ages. Still got a way to go, but in saying that, we still want to present ourselves as being, you know, our key strength is in that aged market. So we shouldn't lose sight of that. How's it changing? I think our clubs are adapting now. You know, when I reflect on, you know, what's happened you know, I've been 15 months now in this job. You know, I look at clubs, how they're adapting their membership models to incorporate the social member, the casual participant more. I think that's great, and I think that's how our sport is changing. Because it can't change at a Bowls New Zealand level, and it can't change at the centre level. It needs to change within the clubs. And you see some of the clubs now, some of the initiatives coming through where, is it Maharangi East?
Yes.
Point Chev Bowling Club,
Yes.
if I'm looking at the local clubs here, where, you know, God forbid, it's not actually about the bowls. It's about the community engagement. It's about the fact there's a quiz evening on Thursday night, or there's a darts evening, or a snooker tournament, or whatever it might be. Now, the bowls are still a big feature of the club, but the club has actually expanded what they're delivering.
Very much so. Like, and if we take Royal Oak just up the road from here, you know, they now run, you know, they have indoor bowls. They have all sorts of things now that goes on. And there's no doubt that if we start just at the bowls part of it, you know, the likes of secondary schools, business house bowls, all of those sorts of coloured clothing, coloured bowls, relaxed dress, all those sorts of things have made it more open to participation. And interesting, the other day when I was talking to the Point Chev players playing the Bowls 3-5, all young, you know, the two young guys there, all come from indoor bowls. You know, and there's a number of players now, Seamus Curtin, another one of the young ones. There's Gary Lawson, there's a lot of them that have come from.
We're in danger of isolating this to Auckland as well here. You go around the country, and it's almost, you know, there's a club out of Invercargill, it started with O, I can't remember, but on a Friday night they ran a really cool business house competition. It was tied around the can you handle the jandal or something like that.
Oh, right.
It was the old mates and bowls competition.
Yeah.
And they ran, you know, and saw it, and they ran a superb competition there.
Well, I do think we are seeing far more participation, aren't we? And it's not at that upper age group. That's not decrying the upper age group entering the sport, but we've certainly seen. And I think if we look at it internationally now, if we look at our leading players internationally, it's just happened that, like golf, they just happen to be younger. No, that's.
Now the challenge for us as a sport and clubs is how do we get those younger people volunteering to do some work around the club, and that's a challenge not for bowls. It's a challenge.
No,
for,
it's
for
a challenge.
society.
It's a challenge for society, and I know what rugby clubs go through. Every sport's got it.
Yeah.
So the other point on that, which I think is very interesting, is rumour or fact, does Bowls New Zealand plan to implement a central online resource whereby all bowls clubs across the country can list their tournaments events easily, searchable via region/centres?
Yeah, we're investing in communication tools and how we, market our competitions. I think it's probably more rumour. I think more fact is that we are heading down a space where we create a good database of all those people that play our game, be it casually or in a serious nature. That we're building a ranking system. We're doing that sort of stuff. We're probably more aiming at the customer than aiming at the competitions that exist within our clubs. So
yeah, it's interesting. And you know full well that we've got some involvement right now with golf, New Zealand Golf, right?
Yeah.
And I was having a look at their website just over the other day.
Yeah.
In how they have been able to, through the handicap process, been able to communicate to all of their members, and of course in doing so, able to promote or an access to where various tournaments are of various levels, whether it be regional or club or whatever it might be. But it's a very clever mechanism of being able to get to your membership of what's going on.
Their model is world class. Golf is world class model where you can find out what your mate's been up to, how many rounds he's played, how many birdies and eagles and whatever they've played, what courses he's playing on. There's just a wealth of data there, and that's where I'd like to see bowls get to in the next 3 to 5 years. Now, it's taken golf better part of 18 years
it certainly
to get to this point.
It certainly has, yeah.
But it's exceptional, their system. So we are actually having conversations with golf about how we could, should we say, piggyback or work with them on a similar solution.
Because it's certainly, for the golfer, it's certainly a website that creates a one-stop shop of your participation, if that's what you want.
Yeah.
And not everybody has to put their tournaments on or whatever, but it's that the facility is there, isn't it? So,
but we like to know. Where are we ranked in our club in terms of bowls or golf? Where are we ranked in our region? Where are we ranked in the country? In our case, how do we rank singles versus pairs, triples, and fours?
Absolutely. And
how do we rank on artificials versus naturals?
Absolutely. And look, I'm not having a crack at Bowls Australia here, but I've looked at their ranking points as they put them out. And I don't know how they actually arrive at the
don't
numbers.
Have too much of a crack at them because we're going to use their ranking systems this summer.
Yeah,
so just be nice.
But I just think, I just think that there's more than likely. It's more about, I think, the explanation of how it works is what intrigues me.
When Martin, bless, who's creating this ranking system at the moment, when he produces something in January, I have no doubt there'll be debate as to how this was done and why am I ranked 1,243? I should be in the top 800.
Absolutely,
it'll happen. But that's good. It's good. It's good debate. It's like some of this other debate that we're having now around pathways and champions. There's people care.
Well, they do.
And if there wasn't a debate, then we wouldn't.
Well, I think that we've got the debate that I would regard, Mark, as it used to be around now 15 months. In the main, the debate that we're getting now is positive debate about opportunity, participation, not about whether, we won't even talk about it, some of the other negativity or apathetic scenarios. We are moving on in a positive environment.
Yeah, we are. It's I think human nature is such that it's easy to critique. It's sometimes easier to critique than to throw the positive statement out there. And I think Kiwis, we're a little bit along those lines. But there's enough positive vibe out there to push this.
I think for a starting point, that the survey on the Champions with 1,200 respondents highlights to me that yes, there is, and the bowlers out there. I think the big thing you got to take out of this, it's great that 1,200 of you have responded to it, but more importantly than that, Bowls New Zealand are listening to your commentary, and we will at some point in time we'll see some positive response from. I'm in danger of qualifying all the good work we're doing, but you listen. But there are some comments you've just got to put to the side. Absolutely.
You just can't, because you can't please everybody. You
sure
can't provide a solution that that meets everyone's
Well,
needs.
it'd be nice if we could sort of list those on one hand in the future, and we know who they are. So, pennant bowls. Should we be adopting Australian pennants and allowing smaller clubs to enter composite teams? Would this improve the standard club sides? Then we could have a national final series and live stream from the quarterfinals onwards. Well, I just before you answer it, Mark, and one of that thing regarding to enter composite teams, well, that's now actually happening in some of the smaller centres now, and even here in Auckland, I know that there has been clubs who have come together to make sure that they're getting their members playing interclub or pennant bowls. Well,
Yeah, and again, that's over to the centres and that in terms of how they want to run their competitions. And same with Bowls New Zealand. In terms of pennants, we on this side of the Tasman, we admire, the pennants competitions that happened in New South Wales and Victoria and Queensland. I presume it's Victoria, but Queensland, yep. New South Wales. They do have the luxury of being within 2 hours drive of each other. To run a New Zealand pennants competition, I think logistically, travel-wise, etc., it's a cost, there's a burden there.
Yeah, there is, and I even now, and I'm not having a crack at Bowls Australia, but from one who played pennant bowls for 5 years in Victoria.
Did you play bowls?
Badly, but yeah, and we won the Victorian pennant actually. And where I think the game's have moved on now is it's exceptionally time demanding pennant bowls. Like we played something like 22 or 23 Saturdays all afternoon from 12:30 right through 25 end matches, four rinks of fours. Played the big scoreboard over 100 ends. So it's a pennant bowls, although it's exceptionally competitive and it's loved very much in Australia. It is very, very time demanding. And I think in New Zealand, in some regard, we've moved on to a different model of pennant bowls than that.
Oh, look, but we have to keep an open mind. The evolution here, whether it's the evolution of bowls 3-5 or some other form of competition, may well lead itself to running a serious, significant inter-club type competition.
Oh, that's positive. I agree with that.
I think we have to keep that open mind.
Yeah, I agree.
Steps to take, and we're starting to move forward certainly in terms of how we promote the game, how we communicate the game out to the wider audience. That's our priority. Yeah.
So live streaming, are you looking to take live streaming events to the next level, like Bowls Australia have, sending Clive Adams around the country commentating the games? Second part of that, does or will Bowls New Zealand look to provide any support to clubs or centres in using social media professionally and proficiently so that we can promote the sport locally at a consistent and professional level to match that of the Bowls New Zealand standards?
I'm going to treat those as two different questions. Because live streaming and social media is a little bit different. Clive Adams, are you Clive Adams? Well, you are our Clive Adams, aren't you? So we send you around the country, or we thank you for going around the country with our live streaming. It's funny, we were sitting here before and we were reflecting that 10 months ago, we did the Nationals and we had pretty much one camera on a tripod type thing. And now we're sitting in front of 3 cameras. We've got lights to either side of us, some sort of white box over there.
I don't know what that white box is over there.
Not sure what it does.
I'm not going to ask either.
It does something. We're mic'd up and everything. How quickly we have moved in adopting live streaming. And I will, I will disparage the Australians here and say that they've been copying us. They've been copying our live streaming technology. They've been using our fantastic consultant, Ben Slater, I understand, for some of their initiatives.
Yes, they have been
using as well.
Yes, they have.
No, we're on the game with the live streaming. It'll be fascinating to see what this looks like in 3 years' time. Our ability, or a sport's ability, to televise themselves, to produce their own content, is just going.
It's certainly on the move, isn't it? I can just say it there from one who, and I really enjoy doing it. It's great. It's to get around the country and watch the best player. Well, watch all the players in action, and you see the best players. But I just cast a word of advice out there to clubs, and besides doing the Bowls New Zealand events, I've got some other events I'm doing, like the Stoke Piers and the Nelson Fours example, and hopefully the Burnside Piers. And the one thing that we really, really have learned is that you do have to have good equipment. You do have to have good broadband reception. And no, I'm not knocking anybody at all, but I've watched some that clubs have done, and you can consistently having cutouts and you haven't got the right gears not at your disposal and all that sort of thing. So as the Bowls New Zealand sort of technical ability increases, we'll be able to impart that to centres and clubs and regions of how best to sort of get the...
Yeah, and we we have it's like a briefcase now.
Not a briefcase. Now, I saw the other day, but I've got to take away with me. It's a suitcase.
It's a suitcase. It's a little suitcase, isn't it? I'm looking forward at Tamara. That's available to clubs so that you can stream yourself. Now, it's just the one camera on they call it a gimbal, which you walk around with. You can interview, you can record the ends, etc. That's available free of charge to any club that wants to live stream on their own Facebook site. You just have to get in touch with Tamara here at Bowls New Zealand.
Great. So there you are, everyone out there. The facility's now available, and
I'm going to just quickly pick up. There was a second question in there, which was around social media and how we can help. We can help. Bowls New Zealand can help clubs to develop their social media sites, their Facebook sites, their Instagrams, etc. The reality is there's 500 bowling clubs in New Zealand, clearly. If a club puts up their hand and says, hey, we need some help in this space, then please do so. Just send us an email and we will offer you whatever advice we can.
I think it's great now, though, that what we are seeing is the number of the clubs who are consistently using Facebook, social media as a way of promoting, like, tournaments.
Yep.
If they're looking for a team for an event, as an example, or I was reading somewhere this morning and I saw the results of some. Stu Settle from the Waikato as an example just won his 30th centre title when they from Hinuera. They won the Waikato men's fours, and they won. The Hinuera club also won the Waikato's ladies fours, and we saw that on their Facebook page this morning, and that's. Yeah, I just encourage clubs to...
So nowadays we're at a point now where we can see, was it Scott?
Yeah.
We can see video of Scott. We can see photos of Scott.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah.
It's moving quickly.
It's moving quickly. So now on to Bowls 3-5, which is the big feature for the sport right now, with our televised event out at New Lynn, which has now been going for a week, and we're going to. If you haven't heard of Bowls 3-5, just go to the Bowls 3-5 website. I'm looking for Tamara's nod to make sure that I'm saying this right. And you can find out a lot more about Bowls 3-5. And if you want to be part of the live audience, click the Watch Live tab on the website, and you can find out how you can be out there at New Lynn for the, counties, North Harbour, wherever you might be.
I'm in danger of being shot here, but just come on down as well. If you're in Auckland, come on down to watch. Yeah. Last week was really good. I thought it was a really good start. One of the disappointing aspects for me was the size of the crowd.
Yes.
We were understood there might be another 50 or 80 more coming along. It didn't happen. That's the work on for us. But if you're in Auckland, come on down. I'll correct myself now and I'll say, if you are coming down, just flick us an email at Bowls New Zealand to say that you're popping in.
Well, it's. I had a look. Again, going to social media. I saw a thing on Royal Oak's website or on Facebook, whereby they're encouraging people to get and watch the Royal Oak Rockets, and they're saying that people contact their man at the club.
Yep.
And he'll make sure.
But we don't want too many Royal Oak people down there either. We can't have just Royal Oak people in the crowd.
Well, look,
we've got to have some others.
I'd love to see like the Carlton people there, for example. How cool. Let's just. All I'll say is every bowl that I've spoken to over many, many years have wanted to see an event on TV, right? We've now got it on TV. It's a quick fire game. You can come and see it live. Come and see the club player, the top player, the average player, whatever, in amongst the 6 teams. And you and I was talking about this before, actually, Mark, about the Bowls 3-5. And I've watched all games that have been played so far. And I think the standard of play has been top draw.
Yeah, I was nervous as hell about we put that those 2 circles in. One's at 500, the other's at 1 metre, and thinking, oh God, should we make those circles bigger? just because if the bowls weren't good enough, we may not have got them within the circles. The bowls has been really good. That's been a feature. I've got 2 points to make, if you don't mind, about Bowls 3-5 TV. It was week 1, and people were nervous as heck on that first night, and even the second night, from the commentators through to the operations crew, through to the players. This was new. We haven't been on TV for a long time. So there's a lot of nerves. And I think over the next 2 or 3 weeks, 3 or 4 weeks, you'll see those nerves settle and the personalities will come through. We've got a little bit of work to do on a few areas, but what a good statement. What a good start. The second point I need to make is, one should always recognise our sponsors, but I want to recognise Sky Sport. I don't know if that's picked up in the camera. They stepped up for us. We're a small sport, and they've stepped up and not just given us an event, a one-weekend event. They've given us 6 weeks, 2 nights a week, 3 hours a night of bowls, of lawn bowls. So thank you to Sky Sport for that. They cover the production costs of this. We've obviously got some money invested in it as well, but thanks a heck of a lot. And if you like me, you share that sentiment, then please let Sky Sport know as well.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's fair to say that I've been watching Sky Sport for a number of years, and with bowls, and sure, we've had the World Bowls and Asia Pacific and a few other events on, and going way back. We had the Nationals on, a few other bits and pieces, but in the main, we only really got a day or 2 days action. That was basically it.
Yep.
And of course, in those circumstances, we were suspect to weather environments because they were on outside greens. We've now got Sky Sport who have committed themselves to 6 weeks, and with commentary people and Sue Woods, Gary Lawson, Miles Davis.
Yep.
So Sky Sport is certainly my big tick to Sky Sport. They've done a wonderful job. And if you can't get out there to Newland, please go to Sky Sport 7 o'clock Tuesday and Wednesday nights. Watch it live, 3 hours.
Go to Newland. Watch it on Sky Sport.
If you're not,
absolutely.
If you're not in
go
the
to
area,
go to the club, go to the local pub.
and the
whatever
other,
it might be.
I watched it. And the other really good thing about it, it's not driven with 7 minutes of live sport and then 7 minutes of advertising.
Yeah. It's all the way through.
It's all the way through.
Honestly, I think you'll see this get better. If we head to year 2 and 3, who knows, we may throw the whole digital signage look into it, the coloured lights. I don't know where, but it's a start, and we get to just improve.
I think I think it's a winner. And this question here: how did we view the first week of the Bowls 3-5 event? Well, I think we've really answered that.
Yep.
And then this last question here, relative to that: how can I recommend the game of Bowls 3-5 to my young siblings when TV coverage is showing the crowd drinking alcohol and yahooing? And
look, it's a hard one. The reality is that we've positioned this show to the 35, 45, 55-year-old, 65-year-old market, adult market. We want to show the sport as being social. You can have a beer, you can enjoy some music, you can play some bowls, kind of thing. Now we're positioning in that space. We're unfortunately not positioning it into the children's market. If we were to do that, our production and what we delivered, what we presented would be different.
I think we're going to just again, we come back to that word flexible again. There's a bit of each ways here, and I can relate back to cricket as an example, where it was always the white pristine, but we moved to the 50 over match. We moved to 2020, and if you watch Sky Sports coverage of 2020, they don't only just involve that of the game, they involve the crowd as well. They had the catching competition, and they have areas where there is non-drinking and all that sort of thing.
Yep.
But it's not about trying to be an advertisement for breweries. Look, sport is now an occasion. It's an event of which there's something, isn't it? Really, you got to take that into the account as well.
Yeah, the wider question is you can't, we can't just produce a product that's going to deliver to the entire market.
No.
We've had to go. This is how we want to deliver our sport. Who we want to deliver our sport. The Fast Five, I watched that. I thoroughly enjoyed some of that Fast
Yeah, I
Five.
watched some of the Fast Five last night.
Yesterday, and last night, and it was colourful, and it was, it was quite creative. Personally, I prefer the traditional game of netball,
Yes.
Western traditional game of
Yes.
netball. But I can understand there is a market for that Bowls 3-5, and it's attracting a wider audience as well. So good on them, and it was a great product. And I hope that Bowls 3-5, in its own way, down its own path, achieves similar objectives.
Yeah, I agree. And just before we move on to just about to close, but I was talking to Helen Stallard just before we came in here, and the Somerset Nationals pairs and singles as the starts on the 2nd of January through to the 8th of January up here in the Auckland area. Entries are still open.
Get your entries in now. Get
All right.
your entries into the competition. Clearly, it's the crown jewel almost of our national competitions. So we welcome more and more participants. So please enter.
And also one of the points, of course, which was in some of the surveys before, was the nationals took too long and all that sort of thing. Now we're going 2nd of January, 8th of January, singles and pairs.
Yes.
It's cut down days, so to speak. Still the same competitive environment. And look, if you're at the club up in Whangarei or Thames Valley, wherever, make up just a couple of your mates, get up here to Auckland, play in the pairs and singles. It's a new innovation for Bowls New Zealand, this change. So we just urge people out there, please get your entries in, and we can't assure you of good weather in Auckland, but we can assure you of a good time. And of course, we'll be live streaming all the finals, right throughout. In fact, we're live streaming the event. So just get your entries in. So, Mark, thanks very much.
I can recall this was supposed to be a 5 or 7 minute segment, wasn't it?
Yeah, apparently.
We've done about 8 or 9 minutes so far, have we? Is that all we've done?
I'm over.
It's all we. So look, I thank you for your time as well. I thank you for
Pleasure, Mark.
helping out here, and your live streaming of the Bowls 3-5 and being around the country is just is great for our sport. We need more personalities like you. And was it Clive Adams? I can't remember.
Clive Adams from Perth, yes.
From Perth in Australia.
Yeah.
We need more people supporting our sport. So thank you.
My pleasure. Okay, we'll be back in a month's time, and look forward to. Hope you enjoy this coverage, and please, share it with your friends. Whatever you've got any questions, put them up there, and of course we look forward to constructive questions, and we'll address them from there. So we'll be back in a month's time, and all the best and good bowling between now and when we catch up again.
Get ready for a whole new Bowls game. This is Bowls 3-5. We've ripped up the rulebook. There's power plays, shot clocks, fast games in under an hour every Tuesday and Wednesday night. Bowls like never before. Bowls 3-5 starts October 23 live on Sky Sport. Proudly brought to you by Somerset Retirement Villages.